Right. Good job. Hey, before you sit down, I want to read just one verse out of the Bible, and this goes back to last week. Last week we talked about the Battle of Jericho. If you were here, and just before they went in to defeat the city, God told them, "When you go defeat the city, don't take anything. It's all mine." From here on out, like the next city after this and all the other ones, you can take as much as you want, but everything in this city belongs to me. And so they went and they marched around the city 6 times, once a day for 6 days, and on the 7th day they marched around 7 times. The whole time they were blowing the ram's horn, and then at the end of that they shouted, and the walls came down, they went in, defeated Jericho. But one person, here's what happened. It says, "But Israel violated the instructions about the things set apart for the Lord. A man named Achan had stolen some of the dedicated things, so the Lord was very angry with the Israelites." Okay, you can be seated. Okay, so today we're talking about the battle of Ai, and if you have a Bible, I want you to turn to Joshua chapter 7. And if you don't have a Bible, there's a Bible underneath the chair in front of you, and I encourage you to grab that and turn to the 6th book of the Bible, which is in the book of Joshua, and we're going to be in chapter 7, and we're talking about the battle of Ai. Ai is a small city, and here's what I want you to understand as we just get ready. So they just defeated the town of Jericho. So the children of Israel crossed the Jordan River, and the first town that they came to, first city, was Jericho. And then from there on out, it's what I call a campaign. So they were going to begin this 5-year campaign where, here's what God told them. They go, "This is the land of Canaan," and so everywhere, God told Joshua and all the Israelites, wherever you step your foot is going to be land that I have given to you. So, but here's the problem. There are inhabitants there. There are people, and they were super wicked, and this was God's way of judging them. So I just want you to see this because there's a spiritual application for you and for me. Okay, so God's like, the children of Israel, here's the land, I've given it to you, it's yours, but you have to go take possession. And there's people living there, so you have to either drive them out or kill them or do whatever you got to do. The application for you and for me, the implication is, God, and I believe this with all my heart. I'm not a prosperity gospel preacher at all, but I believe that God has a lot more things for. I know so many Christians that are just living defeated lives, and I'm like, if you could just see what all God has for you, the territory that God has for you in a spiritual sense. The problem is, you have to go and put in the work. You have to drive out the inhabitants. And so it could be that you're struggling with an addiction or just some bad habits, and God's like, I really have this territory for you, but you got to do some work and get rid of this stuff there. And a lot of people just aren't willing to do that. And so I thought about this first, when I was studying for this. I was thinking, why didn't God just give Israel, why didn't he just wipe out the people and give the land to Israel? And he could have did that. But one of the things that you learn about God when you study the Bible from Genesis to Revelation is God has a way of doing things. And God doesn't like to just give things to you. He likes you to play your role in it and put in a little bit of work. And you know this, like everyone in here who's a parent. You ever bought something for your kid and they just broke it, right? Or they didn't take care of it? Amen, right? You buy something for them and go, "Here you go." And they go, "Ah." And you know what happened? I probably did that. I was trying to think of examples, but I know I did that as a kid. I was a jerk. My parents would buy, we didn't have a lot of money, but my mom would buy me stuff, and I would just, okay, she's not in here, but Cindy Horn was in the first service, and her first husband, Roy Hart, some of you guys know this, some of you don't, but he had a body shop in Kansas City, so he painted cars, and I was best friends with Cindy's son, Roy. And whenever my friend Roy, whenever he turned 16, his dad gave him 5 cars. It was crazy. So, and they were like a GTO and a Chevelle, like they were all tricked out. Like so Roy, one time, it was like my sophomore year. At the end of my sophomore year, I was going to turn 16, and Roy goes, Joe, if you can maintain a B average this year, I'll buy you a car for your 16th birthday. So I thought about that, and about 2 days later, I was like, that would be a miracle. So I just forgot all about it. And so I turned 16, and he came and he threw me the keys to a car, and he goes, here, I got you a car. And I was blown away, but it was a Pinto station wagon, and some of you have seen it. I should have showed you the pictures. And so it was one of those things. I didn't take care of that car. Like, I ran the crap out of it. And I ripped out the clutch and the transmission, and then he would fix it for me. And I was just a jerk, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't appreciate anything. You know why? Because I didn't work for that. But I eventually drove that car to California, and when I got there, I traded it in and got like a Jeep or a Suzuki Samurai. And you know, I babied that thing. I wiped it with a diaper. I took care of that thing. You know why? Because that was I paid my hard-earned money for that car, right? The one that I didn't pay for, I treated like crap, right? Your kids do that. My kids do that. I wish you would talk with my kids. They need a whooping. Anyways, but you kind of do that with God too. So like if God just gives you everything, I kind of feel like we'll just take it for granted. So if you think about it, like I look at my life and the hard times that I've been through, like God had a purpose in that. It's like going through there, I'm like, I don't want to go through this, but God's like, see what I brought you through, and don't you appreciate life a little bit more now that you've been through that? If you just go through life and everything's handed to you on a silver platter and everything goes your way, do you really appreciate? And I think that's why God did that with the Israelites, because he wanted them to appreciate what they had, and so he's trying to teach them some lessons. So let's go through this. They're gonna defeat the town of Ai, and I had intended on really I have so much packed into this sermon we're gonna go past, so I'm just gonna try to skip through some stuff. But we don't have any time restraints in this, sir. So I hope you packed lunch. No, I'm just kidding. But the town of Ai, I don't know if I say it right. Like some people call it A or I. Whatever, but it's 2 letters, A-I. That's the town that they're going to defeat. And so I was going to do a little rant on artificial intelligence, because that's what it reminds me of. And if you don't know about artificial intelligence, you should go do some research. I'm not going to do that here. All I'll tell you is there's some dangerous stuff, and in the next 5 years, we're going to be getting into some weird stuff that I don't think any of us are ready for. So just put your seatbelt on and hopefully just cling to your Bible, you know what I mean? Because that's what you're going to need. All right, well, let's get into this. So here's the story in Joshua 7, verse 1. It says, but Israel, this is what I read earlier, Israel was unfaithful concerning the things set apart for the Lord. Now, you should have a pen in front of you. It probably doesn't work very well. But as we go through this, I like to write in my Bible. I like to circle things and underline, because these details matter. So look in there. So look at the part that it says set apart, right? So remember, God said, when you go and defeat Jericho, all of the gold and silver and anything worth value, you're not allowed to take that. After that, you can take whatever you want, but the city of Jericho, that all belongs to me. So these details are important. So God says these things are set apart for the Lord, right? And he goes, a man named Achan had stolen some of these things, okay? So it says, so the Lord was very angry with the Israelites. Now, what do you notice about that? When I read that, I go, okay, so there's a dude, and his name was Achan, and he disobeyed God. Out of thousands of people, there's only one guy. He disobeyed the Lord, right? But why does it say that God was angry with who? The Israelites. He's mad at all of them. And you're going to see why. And you might go, like when I first read this, I was like, that's not fair. Like, kill him. You don't have to judge everybody, but that's just not how life goes. That's not how God does things. And so you have to learn some things about God as we go through this. So it says that the Lord was very angry with the Israelites. It says Achan was the son of Carmi. I was going to skip over this, but just remember these names. He's the son of Carmi, of the family of Zimri, of the clan of Zerah, and of the tribe of Judah. So those details will matter in just a little bit. And so, but think about, let's just go back just for a second. So it says the Lord was mad. He was angry with the Israelites, even though it was just one man that sinned. You know, I love watching football. I like watching the Chiefs, right? Watch them go for this three-peat. But if you're watching the game, there's 11 players out there, and then there's 11 on the other side. But if one of them commits a holding penalty, who suffers? The whole team suffers, right? I learned that early on as a kid when I joined a team, when I got on a baseball team and a basketball team and a football team, that my actions affect other people. They always do. So I can't go, well, that was a holding penalty. It's just on me. Don't punish the whole team. Like, they all suffered from my bad decisions, right? And that's kind of how it is here too. So let's look in verse 2. It says Joshua sent some of his men. Okay, so this is just a different detour. He gave you the little verse 1 that this is what Achan did. He stole some things that were set apart for the Lord. So now it goes, Joshua sent some of his men from Jericho to spy out the city of Ai. Joshua didn't know about any of that. So he's moving on to the campaign. He's got, okay, what's next? Ai, the city of Ai. We defeated Jericho. Let's go to the city of Ai and let's take that. It says, east of Bethel near Beth Aven. Look at verse 3. It says, when they returned, they told Joshua, it's a small town. It won't take more than 2,000 or 3,000 of us to destroy it. There's no need for all of us to go. See, if you see they're getting a little arrogant, right? They had one big victory. Now they're like, we don't need to take everybody. It's just a couple thousand people. We can handle this. You're getting sort of too big for their britches, right? They're getting ready for a fall. The Bible says that pride goes before a fall. Verse 4, it says, so approximately 3,000 warriors were sent, but they were soundly defeated. The men of Ai chased the Israelites from the gate, the city gate, as far as the quarries. And look what it says, and they killed about 36 who were retreating down the slopes. So 36 people died. They sent 3,000 warriors, and they lost the battle. Now here I need you to understand what's going on here, because prior to this, before they crossed the Jordan River, God told the Israelites, listen, wherever you step, you're going to be on land that I have given to you. And everybody that you go against, whether it's Jericho or anybody else, you're going to defeat them. You don't have to fear, right? He says, fear not, take courage, be strong and courageous, because everybody you fight against, you're going to beat, right? So they went into Jericho a little apprehensive, going, I don't know if this is going to work. And they're marching around the city 7 times. And they're like, this is stupid. Well, that was my commentary. But I was like, this is dumb. And then everything God said happened. God said, blow the ram's horns and everybody give a shout. And when everybody gave a shout, the city of Jericho just came down. And they went in and killed everybody. So now they're riding on that victory. They're going, God was telling them the truth. We can trust him. Let's go. They go to Ai and they get their butts whipped. And then they come back and they go, what the heck? And this is how I feel too. Like I would come back and go, what's going on? Like, did I misread God? Like, is God lying to us? Is he being unfair? Well, what's going on here? God told us wherever you go, you're gonna have victory everywhere you go. But he also gave some caveats in each of those, and this is what we're seeing here. So let's look at this. It says, the Israelites were paralyzed with fear at this turn of events. Their courage melted away. Yeah, of course it did, because now they're wondering if God really on their side. Did God bring them out there to kill them? Look at verse 6. Joshua and the leaders of Israel tore their clothing in dismay, throwing dust on their heads, and bowed down facing the ark of the Lord until evening. So this is sort of, in the Old Testament, they would rend their clothes. If you were really overwhelmed or stricken with grief or something, you would rip your clothes and you just go like this, just as a sign of that you're really disgusted or that you're really grieving. And so it says that they bowed down facing the ark of the Lord until evening. Then Joshua cried out. His question is my question. Like, if I was talking to God, if I was Joshua, this is what I would say. He goes, Sovereign Lord, why did you bring us across the Jordan River if you are going to let the Amorites kill us? If only we have been content to stay on the other side. Lord, what am I to say? Now that Israel has fled from its enemies, for when the Canaanites and the other people living in the land hear about it, they will surround us and wipe us off the face of the earth. And then This next phrase right here, you need to understand that he's a protege of Moses, and for the 40 years that Moses was a leader, this was sort of his MO. Whenever Moses would get in a crunch and oftentimes God was mad at the Israelites and going to wipe them out, Moses goes, no, wait a minute, remember your promises, and what are all the people around here going to think about you if you destroy your own people, right? And God, it's not that God didn't know that, it's just that that was Moses' way of doing that, and Joshua learned that. Look, I've done that before too. I've prayed for stuff in our community. I'm like, Lord, don't do it for us. Do it for your own good name, right? For your reputation. But he goes, and what will happen to the honor of your great name? So that was Moses' logic. He would often do that with God. Now look at verse 10. But the Lord said to Joshua. Now I like this part right here because God is just direct and he deals with him. I like how he deals with him. The Lord said to Joshua, get up. Why are you lying on your face like this, right? He was like, you're sitting there praying and, falling on your face, but there's a reason why that defeat happened. He goes this, verse 11, Israel has sinned and broken my covenant. They have stolen the things that I had commanded to be set apart to me. And they had not only stolen them, they also lied about it and hidden the things among their belongings. You ever heard that phrase that the cover-up is worse than the crime? In some ways, that was the case here because not only, Achan stole those things, but he also lied about it. So look, and it says in verse 12, that is why the Israelites are running from their enemies in defeat, for now Israel has been set apart for destruction. Did you catch that? Like, seriously, he goes, not only are you defeated by Ai, but I'm against you. And God goes, you're set apart for destruction now. But there's a caveat there. He's only doing this until they deal with the sin in the camp. Because if they're not willing to deal with that, they're always going to lose every battle. Look at verse 11. It says, Israel has sinned and broken my covenant. They have stolen the things that I commanded to be set apart. And it says they have also lied about the hidden things. No, I'm down to verse 12. Sorry. It says that they're set apart for destruction. He goes, I will not remain with you any longer unless you destroy the things among you that were set apart for destruction. So he is giving them a chance to make it right. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you have to make things right. Sometimes you got to pick up the phone and call somebody and apologize. Or sometimes you have to return things. You ever done that? Anybody in here, anybody ever, when you were a kid, steal something at the store and your parents made you take it back? Anybody that happened to? Yeah, I had that happen. Yeah, so you learned a very valuable lesson. You probably never did it again, right? I wouldn't think so. But God's trying to get this thing right. He's trying to get it reconciled here. So look at verse 13. He says, get up, command the people to, I like this word, circle this, to purify themselves. Purify. He says, command the people to purify themselves in preparation for tomorrow. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Hidden among you, O Israel, are things set apart for the Lord. You will never defeat your enemies until you remove these things. Okay? Again, there's so many spiritual applications here in my own life and in your own life. I have to look at what I have hidden in my tent that's keeping me from enjoying the blessings of God. Now, verse 14, it says, in the morning, now this is how God's going to deal with this. Can I just tell you, this is a hard passage. I know a lot of pastors that will never preach this, and I really don't want to, but it really happened, and I don't have all the answers as to why God did what he did, but this is hardcore stuff. And here, look what it says. It says, in the morning, you must present yourselves by tribes, and the Lord will point out the tribe to which the guilty man belongs. Remember earlier we told you which tribe he belonged to? Anybody remember which tribe he belonged to? Judah. Okay, good job. All right, verse 14, or verse at the end of 14, he says, that tribe must come forward with its clans, and the Lord will point out the guilty clan. That clan will come forward, and the Lord will point out the guilty family. Finally, each member of the guilty family must come one by one. The one who has stolen what was set apart for destruction will himself be burned with fire along with everything he has, for he has broken the covenant of the Lord. He has done a horrible thing in Israel. Now, that's harsh, but you need to understand that they are living under a theocracy, which means it's God rule. So God is ruling over them. And let me help you understand this, because I don't like this. Like, so you go, well, so we find out somebody steals something at Grace Church, we're going to take them out and burn them. Maybe. Now, I'm just saying, like, that's not how we're going to do things. Like they were living, this is like a unique time in history, and God is sort of getting everything set up for the way he wants his society to work. And to God, it's like a deterrent. So he deals with Achan in this particular way so that other people go, next time you go into a city and God says, don't take any of this stuff, you're going to think twice, because you're going to be like, dang, I remember what happened to Achan. I better not do this thing, right? And so this is really, really harsh, but you just have to understand that this is how God wanted to do things. And so let's go on. Verse 16 says, early the next morning, this is a wild story. I can picture myself being Achan. You ever done something before? You ever done something wrong and you knew you were about to get found out? Just the sinking feeling of just going, crap, man. Here it comes, right? You just know it's coming. Achan knows he knows he's found out. Verse 16. Because Joshua's like, one of y'all did this, and we're going to find out who it was. And he didn't come forward, right? God gave him a chance to raise his hand and go, okay, don't punish everybody else. I did it. But he didn't do that. He's sitting there with his hands in his pocket going, hope they don't find out it's me. Verse 16 says, early the next morning, Joshua brought the tribes of Israel before the Lord, and the tribe of Judah was singled out. Then the clans of Judah came forward, and the clan of Zerah was singled out. Can you just, Achan's just in the back going, oh crap. Every time his clan gets singled out, his family, and he goes, the families of Zerah came before the Lord, and the family of Zimri was singled out. That's his family. Verse 18, every member of Zimri's family was brought forward person by person, and Achan was singled out. Can you just imagine? Can you picture that scene where everybody's, it's kind of like what is that, like a police lineup? You ever seen that? You know what I mean? And they go, that's the person right there. And then he's busted. Like, what do you do at that point? He's sweating bullets, but you got two choices. Try to deny it, or you just confess it, right? That's all you have to do. Like, there was a story in the Old Testament, I've talked about this numerous times, with David and Nathan the prophet. So David committed an adulterous affair and was out of God's will for a year, but God loved him enough to send Nathan the prophet to put him back on the right track. And when Nathan confronted him, David, because here's one of the things that you need to understand, like, spiritual maturity is owning up to what we've done wrong, right? So if you're a person, like, I don't like doing this, but I have people that come to me sometimes, and sometimes I have blind spots, and I have people who care enough about me to sometimes go, hey, Joey, I don't know if you realize how you talk to people, or if you said that, you know, and sometimes I'll go, well, forget you, man, who are you to judge me? But that's not spiritual maturity. Spiritual maturity is go, hey, thank you for pointing that out, man, I appreciate, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you have a booger in your nose, don't you want someone to point that out? Right? Don't you? If your zipper's down, before you get up and go to a meeting, don't you want somebody to go, hey, your fly's down, right? That person cares about you. If they don't care about you, they're going to go, watch this, right? So we need people like that. But your posture on that, like how you respond, when somebody comes to you and says, hey, as a brother to brother or sister to sister, here, let me just point out something I saw. And if you bristle at that, if you get mad at them, that's spiritual immaturity. Like, we've got to learn to be able to receive criticism from people if they care about us. Now, I get criticized by a lot of people, and sometimes I just don't care because I know that person don't care about me. But if it's someone that I know that loves me, I'm going to listen to them, okay? So you need to be able to receive that. And where did I stop? Okay, verse 19, look at this. So he was singled out, it says in verse 19. I love these details that he talks about in here. It says, then Joshua said to Achan, my son, give glory to the Lord, the God of Israel, by telling the truth. Isn't that interesting? I just love the way the Bible puts things. Give glory to God by telling the truth. Make your confession and tell me what you have done. Don't hide it from me. God has given him a chance to make it right. He's still going to get dealt with. Don't get me wrong. He's still going to be put to death. But God has given him a chance to kind of clear the air, to clear his conscience. Let me give you and help you some insight. A lot of you might have, like I said before, if you've done something and then you've been found out. There's been times, like the one time, I've shared this before, but when I was a teenager, I was probably 19 years old. I might have been 20. This is before I was a Christian. But I had warrants out for my arrest for like a whole year. And I just remember driving down the road, always nervous. Does anyone in here have warrants right now? Because I have a police officer. I'm just kidding. We're not going to rat you out. But have you ever had a warrant out for your arrest or something like? Oh, I mean, some of you can relate, some of you can't. But I remember driving, and I'm just always on edge, just always looking for cops, right? And they eventually came to my house, and I saw them pull up in the driveway at my mom's house, and I ran in the garage, and I was hiding underneath my dad's truck, and they came in, and they go, well, I don't see anything. They were getting ready to leave, and the one guy goes, hey, well, let's look underneath here, and they caught me. And I was like, crap. But you know what I did? Once they put me in handcuffs, I was like, I'm glad you guys did this, because I'm so tired of running. Does that make sense? Like, sometimes people just get relieved. If you're running from God, and God finally create some circumstances and you finally just surrender, it's like, you can take a breath. I'm so tired of running from God, or I'm tired of running from the cops. We see that all the time in our recovery group when people are out there they've messed up their lives on drugs or alcohol, or they're running from the cops, and something, maybe they get a DUI or for whatever reason, they come into group and they go, I'm ready to get right with God. I'm ready to get sober. And they go, I'm so glad I got caught, right? You might have got caught, and you might have lost a relationship or lost a job. You might have a DUI, but you're relieved because the running is just like, it overwhelms you. And most of you guys know what that feels like. And that was Achan. And God's like, here's your chance to get this off your chest. Look at verse 20. And Achan replied, I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel, for I need you to pay attention to this. This is so powerful. He goes, if you have a pen, I want you to circle the words, I saw, those two words. He goes, I saw a beautiful robe imported from Babylon, 200 silver coins, and a bar of gold weighing more than a pound. I wanted them so much. Circle the word I wanted, the two words I wanted. And then he says, he goes, I wanted them so much that I took them. Circle, I took them. He goes, I saw, I wanted, and I took. See that progression? That's true for in your life and in my life. He goes, they are hidden in the ground beneath my tent, with the silver buried deeper than the rest. So he took it back to he did this. He was out there and he looked, he saw some gold and some silver and this beautiful garment from Babylon. And he goes, ain't nobody looking. And he scooped all that stuff up and he went back to his tent. And look, you know you're doing wrong when you bury it, right? He's like, I got to hide this from everybody. So he knew he was doing wrong, or he wouldn't have buried it. But he goes, I saw it, and then I wanted it so much. It reminds me of Adam and Eve. The story of Adam and Eve. They go. We saw the fruit and how delicious it was, and that it would make us so wise, and so we took it. That's why that overwhelmed. You know that they say that the eyes are the window to the soul. So and this is Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, if your eyes offend you, if one of your eyes offends you, pluck it out. Now, I don't recommend that you literally do it. There has been throughout history. In fact, I was talking to a guy a couple weeks ago, and he's counseling a guy that plucked out one of his eyeballs because he couldn't stop looking at pornography, right? So he's I'm not saying to literally apply that to your life, but the eyes, it's like we lust after things through the eyes. So we see something, and then we want it so much, and I think you can relate to that. Have you ever bought something you can't afford? I have. You ever saw something on TV or at the mall or something, or I saw something somebody else had, and you're like, I want that so bad. And you buy it, and you're like, I can't afford this, right? I've done that. What is that? That's lusting. That's coveting after what other people have. And so you got to learn that. All right, now I want to show you this video. This is a guy, some of you have never heard of this guy, but his name's Adrian Rogers. He's probably my favorite preacher of all time, certainly probably top 3. But he's on the radio every morning. If you go to work around 8 o'clock, 92.3, put it on there, and he comes on from 8 to 8:30, and his sermons are on there. This guy died in 2005. It might have been 2007. But his sermons still live on. Now, he's old school. You may not like this style of preaching, but for me, he's one of those guys that just, like, tell it like it is, and he'll put his bony finger in your face and go, you're the man, like Nathan the prophet. But I like this kind of preaching. So he did, as I was studying for this, I found a clip on YouTube of him talking about what Achan did. And I was like, I want to show that. So let's watch this.
This insignificant little city sends them running like whipped puppies. They had failed. Now, why had they failed? Why was Israel defeated? What is the key to constant and perpetual victory? How did they miss it? What happened? Well, use your imagination. I can imagine a scene like this. It's midnight now, over the ruins of Jericho. The city lies in rubble. There are broken columns and crumbled walls, disarray. Outside Jericho, the camp of Israel is pitched, and here is each tribe in its place, and the tents are there. The moon is looking down on that scene of desolation as the walls came tumbling down. Everybody is asleep. It's quiet. Did I say everybody was asleep? There's one man who's not asleep. He's a man whose name is Achan. I see him as he comes to the door of his tent and opens it and quietly, stealthily makes his way from that tent and out of the place where his tribe is encamped. He makes his way over those fallen brick and rock, over that fallen wall. He makes his way into the city there, into the marketplace. And he begins to look around, and the moonlight shines down on something that is silvery. And he notices that there's a bag there, and the mouth of that bag is open. He picks up the bag and looks, and there are 200 shekels of silver. He's a soldier. He's never held that much money in his hand at one time. He picks it up and it runs through his fingers like water. He puts it back in the bag and holds it in his trembling hand, and there he sees something now flashing like fire. Is it a piece of cheese? No. It's a wedge of gold. Pure gold. He picks it up, shines it, holds it. He's never seen that much gold at one time. He's got the silver, he's got the gold, and then there's something else flashing, sparkling. It's an ornament, a beautiful ornament. It's on a garment. He picks it up, shakes the dust off it. Why, that came from Babylon. Why, that's beautiful. He holds it up. Oh, his heart is beating wildly. He says, this I want, this I will have. And he takes the silver and the gold, wraps it up in the Babylonian garment, makes his way back over the rubble, back to his tent, looks around. Nobody has seen him yet, he thinks. He goes into his tent and rolls back his sleeping mat and scoops out the dirt. And he puts the Babylonian garment in there, and he puts the 200 shekels of silver, and he puts the wedge of gold, and he covers it, then rolls out his sleeping mat, and lies down and goes to sleep. At least he tries to sleep. There's a smile on his face. He says, I have done it, and nobody has seen me. And he was right. Almost. There was one who had seen the whole thing. Almighty God, watching from heaven. What had he done? He had committed a trespass, and a terrible trespass. You say, well, Pastor Rogers, after all, it was a victory. And to the victor go the spoils. That's right. It was God's victory, and to God was to go the spoils. Go.
All right. So, I don't know. I really like him, and I like that. Let me finish this story. So we're in verse 25. Let's look at this. This is how God dealt with it. This is hard. Like, seriously, you're going to have questions when you get to heaven and go, God, why did you do this? But it says in verse 25, then Joshua said to Achan, after he just confessed, got it off his chest, that was a good thing for him to do. He goes, why have you brought trouble on us? The Lord will not bring trouble on you. And all the Israelites stoned Achan and his family and burned their bodies. They piled a great heap of stones over Achan, which remains to this day. That is why the place has been called the Valley of Trouble ever since. So the Lord was no longer angry. Okay, so that's all I'll say is from then on out, there was a pile of stones that served as a memorial and a reminder to obey God and to obey all the details of God, and don't try to look around and go, well, nobody's looking, so I can take this. That's what God was trying to teach them. And I know it really sucks that his whole family died and all of that, but I have written down here, I think this is written in my Bible too. When I first got a Bible years ago, someone wrote down, sin will take you farther than you wanted to go, it'll keep you longer than you wanted to stay, and it'll cost you more than you were willing to pay. And that's what sin does. Sin is devastating. So, guys, I have a video that we're not going to watch. We'll watch it next time. We don't have time. So, but this is so in chapter 8, if you look at all of chapter 8, is now that the Lord wasn't angry anymore, he gathered the troops, Joshua did, and they went and they defeated Ai easily, right? Because now God was back on their side and fighting for them. So let me I wrote down just 6 observations about this, 6 thoughts about this story. I don't have a lot of time, but we'll just talk about these if you're taking notes. Number 1 is great victories are often followed by great defeats. And if you think about that, it's really true. Sometimes we get, on a spiritual high, and maybe you're, too, maybe pride is set in or whatever, and maybe you're susceptible to a fall. But I've just noticed that whenever I'm on a spiritual high, like on Easter weekend is like a great thing. We have all these people here. The next day, I kind of feel just not very good, And so sometimes after a great victory, there's a great fall. Whenever people come up here and get baptized, I always tell them, or down there, I always tell them, hey, get ready for the worst week you've ever had, right? Because someone gets baptized and they bring their family here, and they're on cloud 9. It's like the greatest day of my life, and then Satan comes after them and just attacks them. And so you have to understand that sometimes great defeats are follow great victories. Number two is don't forget to consult with God before you make plans. Let me just touch on this just for a second, because when you go back and read the story in Joshua chapter 7, okay, whenever the Israelites defeated Jericho, and then Joshua was like, all right, just send 3,000 to the city of Ai, and that should be no problem. You know what he didn't do? You won't find anywhere in there where he went and consulted God. He didn't sit down and pray and say, God, how many should we send? And how should we do that? Because if he had sat down and asked God, you know what God would have said? Don't go. If you go, you're going to get your butt whooped. That's what's going to happen. You're going to lose. But he didn't do that. And so in a way, this failure was Joshua. It was a leadership failure on his part because he didn't consult with God. And all I'll tell you guys is you and I, we make decisions every day, all day, big decisions and little decisions. And be sure to consult with God with the things that are going on in your life. And God tells us to ask for wisdom. In the book of James, he says, if you ask, I won't resent your asking. Sometimes I feel like I'm not going to pray about that. That's such an insignificant. God doesn't really care about that. But God's like, God is Heavenly Father, and he wants us to talk to him all day throughout the day. Number 3, be careful what you set before your eyes. Remember the story of Achan, how he goes, I saw it. He got this in his mind. He saw it, and he wanted it, so he took it. Okay, so be careful what you allow before your eyes. And I'm pretty sure most people in this room, if not everybody, has a cell phone in your pocket. And you can pull that out right now and within seconds look at unspeakable evils taking place in our world. Some of the most vile things are right there on your phone. And I don't know. So just be careful what you say on your phone. I started at the beginning. I took the whole month of August off of social media. And I may just stick with that because I feel so much better. You know what I mean? Like, here's another thing. I haven't said this, but for the whole month of August, I started charging my phone in the bathroom and not next to me. Because you ever done this? Like, I'm laid down for bed and I just scroll, and 2 hours later, I'm like, I need to get sleep. Right? So now, once I took social media off my phone, I don't even have any reason to do that. So you might want to, if you're losing sleep, you might want to just charge your phone in the other room and see how that goes. It's been awesome for me. I'm going to keep doing that. Anyways, number four, coveting is dangerous and leads to other sins. It's the same thing what I was talking about. Achan saw that, and he saw the gold and the silver and the garment, and he coveted it and he wanted it. So that turned into he stole it, and then he lied about it, and eventually cost him his life. And I'm just telling you, like, if you covet what other people have, you see their nice car, and you know you really can't afford a car payment like that, but you do it anyways, you're going to suffer consequences. And so just be content with what God has for you. All right. Number 5, there's no such thing as a secret sin. Okay. You need to know that. You need to know that when you go like this and nobody's looking and you engage in whatever you're about to do, you need to know that God sees everything. Okay, so there's no such thing. He sees everything that you do. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, what is it that I have buried in my tent that I need to bring to light, that I need to get right with God? And number 6, this is the last one. I wish I had more time to really dive into this one, but we need to consider our role within our community. Okay, one of the things about this story of Achan that it's troublesome, but it's like his whole family died because of his sin. And that's hard to reconcile. But I think about, like I said earlier about a football team. I learned this early on when I was on a team, that my decisions affected everyone else on the team. Like, we might lose this game because of something dumb that I did. So I think most people can understand that. And as it relates to in the church world, think about this, like that old saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And so I have to consider, what is my role in whatever community I am in? And let me talk about the one that I love the most, and that's here at Grace Church. And sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you guys, here's how I sort of, this is my philosophy on this. Sometimes there's sin in the camp. Sometimes I feel like God is not blessing our church to the extent that he wants to because there's sin in the camp, okay? And maybe it's me. The first thing I do is I go, is it me? God, is there something in my life that I need to confess and get right with? And sometimes it is. But sometimes it's other people. And this is the thing that I hate worse than anything about my job. But there's been times that I have to confront people. And I'll share with you my philosophy on this. If you're just a person who shows up to our church occasionally or every week and you're not a leader, then I may. It's just that I've confronted people before. I've pulled them aside and said, hey, you might want to reconsider. And I've had people cuss me out. So I'm like, I don't like getting cussed out. But I only do that because I care about you. I appreciate it. Like I said before, I appreciate when people pull me aside because sometimes I have blind spots. But I may or may not confront somebody. But if you're a leader in our church, like if you're a kids worker, or you're a deacon, or you're a leader in recovery group in some capacity, and I know that you're doing something, you're living in sin, I have to confront you, or else I'm not doing my job, and I do not envy that. That's not an enviable position to be in. I hate that, and sometimes I have to remove people because here's what I know: God's not going to bless our church if we have a bunch of leaders in our church. If we have people teaching the kids, if you're teaching the kids and you're living in sin, it's a contradiction, and we can't have it, And so that means we have a lot less people teaching the kids, But we have to do that. And I know, like if I was sitting there, I would have questions and go, so you want us to be perfect? No, I'm not saying that. But I want everyone to consider, do I have something buried in my tent? And if I'm a leader in the church, I better deal with that. Or I might be the one hindering the growth of Grace Church or people coming to Christ. I mean, How do you think Achan felt knowing that his kids were killed because of his sin? Because of his sin. And like, every time I make a decision, if I choose to do the wrong thing, I know that that doesn't affect just me. That affects people coming to Christ at our church. I don't want to stand before God one day and go, a whole lot of people didn't get saved because you wanted to hold on to your sin. This is that's a harsh thing. But if you want to be a leader, certain responsibilities come along with that. All right, let me give you, I don't even have time to go through each one of these, but this is just a little, like a second sermon that you can go do on your own. But sin, it always hurts ourselves, it harms others, and it hinders our relationship with God. So whatever you have buried in your tent, I recommend you go deal with that. And then here's how you deal with it. These 4 things. How do you deal with sin? Stop it. It's not that complicated. Just stop it. Like if you come to me and go, well, what should I do? Stop doing that. Number 2, confess it, learn from it. You might need to get counseling, But number 4, and then forget about it. So you don't have to keep beating yourself up years down the road. You don't have, like, once you confess it, God's like, I forgive you. It's over. You don't have to always keep doing that. So let's do this. Let's bow our heads and let's close our eyes. And I want to, in this invitation, I want to, matter of fact, I'm going to have you stand. Will you just quietly stand to your feet? I know you've been sitting for a while. But listen, I had this thought yesterday that I just want to end with this. And I was driving around yesterday, and I heard this song on the radio. It was a Christian song. I wish I knew the name of the song and the artist. But she was singing, and she said that God is in the details. I would sing it for you right now, but I would butcher it. But she was like, God is in the details. And I thought about that. And here's what I thought. Like it was on the flip side of what I've been thinking about. Because in this series on Joshua and going through the Old Testament, there's a lot of details and I've been telling you every week, God cares about the details. Like he gives us instructions and he expects us to follow them to a T, like Achan. Like, don't take that. And Achan was like, he probably didn't mean that. And he died and his whole family. So God cares about details and we should follow those details. But I think what God was speaking to me yesterday about, the Holy Spirit was just showing me that look at the other side. God is concerned about the details of your life. And that's a good thing. Like God cares about the little small details of your life. All the things that you think, I don't need to pray about that. God doesn't have time for that. Or God doesn't care about these little things. I don't know. Like I like it when my kids come to me and talk to me about life, It doesn't have to be the big things. I like when my kids just talk to me about football or sports or how they're doing in school or whatever, because I'm their dad and I care about them. And you have a heavenly Father that goes, there's no detail and significant that I don't want to know about with you, that I don't want to discuss with you. So let's bow our heads and let's close our, I want you to, in an attitude of prayer, maybe you're dealing with something and you want to come up here and pray. Maybe something's just overwhelming you and you just need to come put it before the altar. Maybe you got something hidden in your tent that you need to confess, that you need to get right with God. You don't necessarily have to come and tell a person, but you do need to tell God. You need to acknowledge that. If it's hidden in your tent, get it out and just go, God, I'm sorry. You know, God already knows. God was in heaven and he watched Achan do all of that. And it didn't bring him joy to have to deal with that. But he did it because God is God and he demands justice. God is a loving God, but he's also a God of justice. And so I want us to think about that. That's what I've been thinking about, is that God cares about the details of my life, and that's a good thing. Because he loves me that much, and he loves you that much. He cares about every small thing that you're going through. The good things, the bad things, he would just like for you to talk to him about it. You don't have to get on your knees every time you pray. You drive down the road. You shouldn't close your eyes. You probably wreck. But just talk to God. Just talk to God when you're in your car. Tell him about how your day's going. He wants to hear from you. So let's think about that this week in terms of God cares about the details of my life. And maybe we take a look at what's buried in our tent and go, I know I need to deal with that. You might come up to me, and I've had people before come up to me and go, Am I the sin in the camp? Am I Achan in this church? Like, no, I mean, you might be, but I'm not picking on you. I'm not picking on anybody specifically. But if the Holy Spirit is dealing with you about something, I recommend you do that. Because I know some of the most miserable times I've had is when the Holy Spirit's going, Joey, you got sin in the camp, or you got something buried in your tent, and you know what that is, and you need to deal with that. And when I finally deal with it, I feel so much better. I'm relieved. And God wants you to feel that too. So the last thing is, before you get out of here, if you're here and you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus, if you have never given your life to Christ, you need to understand that there is a God in heaven that loves you. But remember, I said he's also a God of justice. So if you go through your life and you go, no thanks, I don't want a relationship with God, okay, he will respect that. But you'll have to live for all of eternity regretting that decision. And God doesn't want that. But he wants you to make a decision to follow him today. So if you're here, matter of fact, everyone just bow your heads and close your eyes if you haven't already. But if you're here and the Holy Spirit is dealing with you right now, and you're kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're tired of running from God and doing your own thing, why don't you just stop and surrender and give your life to God? And you've probably been thinking about it for a long time. But he loves you so much. He's been pursuing you your whole life. So right where you're at, pray this prayer with me, giving your life to God. Just say something like this. Just say, God, right here in this moment, I am so tired of running, and right now I surrender to your will. I ask Jesus, the one that died on the cross, to come into my life and to be my Lord and Savior. Just tell him, say, God, the best way I know how, I receive you into my life, and I promise that I'm going to follow you all the days of my life, that I won't turn back when things get hard. I'll follow you to the very end, and it's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen. Hey, listen, before you guys get out of here, Pastor Chuck is back at the Next Step Center, and on your way out, if you prayed that prayer with me just now, you need to go by there and talk with him. He's going to give you, we have a free packet to give you to help you take your next step. And so everyone, don't forget about next week. If you're planning on coming today to the Get to Know Us dinner, just right now make your way downstairs, and we're going to eat in a few minutes, and you're definitely invited to that. And then next week is Faith in Action, so I hope you are a part of that.